This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, fine. In the last session, we completed up to primary ledger creation, right? So we created chart of accounts with a complete definition, and we created accounting calendar, currency and accounting method. Those are predefined in any environment by selecting those four components: calendar, currency, chart of accounts, and accounting method. Calendar, of course, it's accounting calendar, currency, chart of accounts, and subledger accounting method, or simply you can call as accounting method. By using these four components, we created primary ledger. These four you can call as 4Cs also. How 4Cs? Calendar starts with the C. Okay, the calendar starts with the C. Currency also starts with the C. And chart of account also starts with the C. And what about accounting method? Accounting method is not starting with the C, but what Oracle documentation says, you consider this C as a fourth C. We have this accounting method we call as conversion also, conversion. Okay, conversion, but we are not taking that from conversion C first letter as a fourth C. The accounting method, this is a C you have to consider. So up to release 11, these 3 C's only we take into setup books. From release 12, 4 C's will take into setup books. That's how just they made the logic. So 4 C's, with the help of 4 C's, we created primary ledger. Now, what is the purpose of any company? Why the people are running the companies? What is the why these companies are running anywhere, everywhere?
For profit.
For profit. Now we created a primary ledger. In the primary ledger, we have to provide one profit related account, which is a mandatory. That is the purpose every company is running. So we have an account called as retained earnings account. Retained earnings. How do you get the retained earnings? It's nothing but surplus account. In other words, you can say surplus. Say simple surplus account, just say surplus account. How do you get retained earnings? Revenue minus expense. You get retained earnings. Okay. The earnings which are owned by company, maybe after distributing the profits, etc., whatever are owned by company, as earnings, those we call as retained earnings. How do you get the retained earnings? The total revenue which company got, from that we have to remove the expenses, then you will get retained earnings. So this is very important. Retained earnings is important for every company. So that is a target for every company to get more retained earnings. So this account we have to provide in the primary ledger. For that, we use the task called as specify ledger option. With the specify ledger options task, we can provide the retained earnings for our ledger. We'll go and do it. Okay. So we have to set the retained earnings account. This is a mandatory account for every ledger. If you want to use any ledger after creating the ledger, minimum you have to set this retained earnings account. There are a lot many options which we use in the finance process. But to use ledger in any process, it could be finance or a CM or PPM or anywhere. If you want to get ready with a complete ledger definition, this retained earnings account need to be provided within the primary ledger. Now we'll go on to provide this retained earnings account. This retained earnings account is already available as a part of corporate account value set. That value set only we associated to our chart of account structure through instance, right? Instance level for account segment, we overridden, like, right? So earlier, what are the values that we assigned? We removed and we assigned this corporate account value set. Within the corporate account value set, we have all the accounts. As a part of all those accounts, we have retained earnings account also. Now we have to provide this retained earnings account for our ledger. Okay, we'll go and do it. Fine. So our username is, I think I created as a ERP tree. Now go to our project. Go to project. So click on setup and maintenance. Go to task list. Click on manage projects. And you can click on overview, so that system will take us to our project, or else directly you can click on the project from here itself. Find that. Now what we have to do? We have to specify the ledger options. So we have seen any task you perform, every task starts with manage primary ledger, manage accounting calendar, manage currencies, manage chart of account structure, manage chart of account structure instance. Every task starts with manage. We discussed 99% tasks starts with a manage only. There are very few tasks which starts with a different name, different kind of specifications, information, like maybe define or something else. Here, specify ledger options also same. The actual task name itself is specify ledger options. It's not like manage ledger options. We'll go and search for specify ledger options. So specify ledger options task is available from 3 different paths. 2 paths available from financials, 1 path is available from procurement. See, this task you have to perform from the project only. Why? We'll see. I want to perform this task. I don't want to do from the project. Is it possible or not? We'll see. Okay, there are many tasks which you have to perform from the project only. Okay, so I want to go to directly search page. From here you can find the task, but you cannot perform that. See, specify ledger options. Click on search. Yes, the task is available. Now we want to set the ledger options for which ledger? What is our ledger name? ERP3 USA primary ledger. Now I want to set for USA ERP3 USA primary ledger options. Very primarily here we want to set retained earnings account. If I click on this, see what happens. It is going to some Australia primary ledger. This is a ledger which is created by Oracle as a part of Vision instance. It is going randomly. It is going randomly. Basically, whatever the ledger is created through loading process and all, that's how it will take. It won't ask us we want to set ledger options for which ledger if you are directly trying from this search page. You can go to calendar. From here you can create the primary ledger. There is no issue. Manage primary ledgers. You can click on this. It will take us to the same page you can create from here. But specific tasks you cannot perform directly from here. Only the option is project. Okay. So that is the reason what we have to do is certain tasks we have to perform the project. Which tasks we have to perform the project we'll understand now. We'll talk on that. So anyway, let's go to the project. There is some information to understand. We'll do it and we'll discuss on that again. Go to implementation project. What is the task name? Specify ledger options. Search. Okay. Now we are working from the same side. So from procurement, whatever the task is available, you can click on this. Specify ledger options. Drag little right here. See, if you notice here, this is a task, specify ledger options. And if you click on go to task icon, system will ask us we want to set up ledger options for which ledger, because within the project only you can see the selected scope. Selected scope means it will allow you to select the ledger, but if you are trying to do the same from directly search window, there we don't have selected scope, right? We don't have that option. Just opening in the different tab. So here is the same task. Specify ledger options. Here also we have same task. Okay. Specify ledger options. Specify ledger options. Here there is no specification directly. I have to click, but here we have a selected scope. When you have a selected scope, it will ask us to select which ledger you want to set the ledger options. Which ledger you want to set the ledger options, it will ask, but here there is no scope selection, so that is the reason it will go to the random ledger. But this is not our ledger at all. But if you click from here, from the project, see what happens. Click on, go to task icon. Now system will ask us, we want to set the ledger option. This is how we need. So primary ledger, which primary ledger you want to set the ledger options, that you have to select. Just select this value, select and add. Click on apply and go to task. Now system is asking us to select our ledger, search for our ledger. ERP3, this is search field. By default you have a search. So ERP3, use enter from the keyboard, enter. It will be filtered. Now say save and close. It got selected, say save and close. Now it will take us to our primary ledger only to set the ledger options. Okay. So here you can provide the retained earnings account. First you can give the journal language. Give as US English, American English. Okay. And provide that retained earnings account. We discussed, right? One account is mandatory when you create the ledger. So this is our primary ledger. Okay, if you want to change the name, you can change by using the specify ledger options. Once you create the ledger, from the ledger creation page, you cannot change the ledger name. Only the option is if you want to change the ledger name, you have to come to specify ledger option. There we have an option where you can edit the ledger name. Fine. So here we have to provide retained earnings account is mandatory account. You can see the star mark as just which represents mandatory. Just click on search. Okay, sometimes it may not
once you specify ledger name there, if you want to change again, ledger ID might be different, right? It may affect some other places, right?
Sorry?
Once you define ledger name, then you go and change in between the name. It won't affect anywhere.
We have to change it. I'll show you. I'll explain everything. Those also I'll be discussing. Okay, if you have more than one ledger, how to manage? Yeah, we'll discuss.
Okay.
Yeah. So company. So I'm selecting one company. Here, any company, any department you can select, because here, whatever the company, whatever the department we are giving, retained earnings not for that. Any company you can give, only the primary part is here. You have to select the retained earnings account. The associated corporate account value set to our account segment. That is the reason you can see all these accounts. From this, select retained earnings account. Search for retained earnings account. So retained earnings account, select. Okay, say okay. We given retained earnings account, nothing but retained earnings account. Code combination.
Lakshman, so please go ahead. Actually, you have which is not already specified. That is not already specified. So have you selected the dynamic insert allowed here in for like automatic account code combination allowed?
At instance level, it is already enabled, right? EBS we have to enable manually, but here by default
okay,
that is
okay. So I just okay.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. Done. So that we no need to enable. That is the reason I didn't explain. Okay. So by default that would be enabled. In case of EBS, you should enable. If you enable, then only you can create new code combination. Done. So just this account you have to provide and say save and close. This is how you have to set ledger options. Done. Now if you want to set the ledger options for other ledger, you say you have multiple ledgers. In that case, what we have to do? If you click on go to task icon, it will take you to the same ledger because our ledger is selected in the scope. Which ledger is selected in the scope, it will take to that ledger only. See? If you want to set the same ledger options for other ledger, what we have to do is you have to click on that ledger name. Click on ledger name, then you can change the ledger. Okay, any ledger you can select. For that ledger, you can set the ledger options. This is the process. Clear?
So one small question here again, Lakshman, like if we are having a secondary ledger here, so is there a checkbox that what will be the primary and what will be the secondary?
No.
Usually we have 2-3 ledgers, whatever I have seen in the implementations.
Yes, we do it. Same process. Like if you are going to do that, n number of ledgers you may have. In that case, we'll be selecting that ledger to set that ledger specific configuration. Any ledger. Okay.
No, my question is how to specify which one is primary. Like if I have 3 different ledgers. Yeah.
See, when you talk about the secondary ledger, we have separate task for that. Okay, by following the task, we'll create the secondary ledger. In the same way, reporting ledger. Okay, done. Fine. That anyway, that will be taken care by finance people. We don't need to worry about it. And just we need primary ledger. We don't need more than that. So let's focus on that. Fine. So this is how we have to set the ledger options. So just click on go to task icon. It will, if no ledger is selected, it will ask us to select. You can select, then you can set the ledger options. If you want to set the ledger options for other ledgers, anyway, that is not our job and all. So you have to click on this and you have to select same process you have to follow. Done. We specified ledger options. Okay, done. Now, how many companies we created within the primary ledger as a part of chart of accounts? 3 companies, right? 3 companies, you should have a registration. You should have a registration. So to run the 3 companies in one country, how many registrations are required? What do you think?
3 legal entities.
Don't use those terms. I'm not asking that. Gaurav, please. If you have a background of finance, okay, cool. So, but just whatever I'm asking, if you can answer, that would be really good. I'm asking the question, if you have 3 companies in one country, how many registrations required? I'm asking. If you are speaking something else, it would be confusion for other participants. They are not from finance background, right? Please.
Maybe 1 registration.
1 registration.
So if it's completely 3 different line of business or 3 companies, as you said, then it will be 3, right? 3 will have its own provincial and then the federal registration.
Yeah, correct. 2 are applicable, 2 are possible, 2 are possible. So since country is 1, we are talking about country 1. In one country, for multiple businesses, you can go with 1 registration. That is possible. Or else, if you want to keep them as a separate entity in terms of legal reporting and everything, so you can go with for 3 companies, 3 registration. 2 are possible. 2 are possible. Whatever it may be the scenario your client is following, they may have 1 registration for multiple companies which they are operating in one country, or else for each company separate registration. Whatever you follow, that you have to track into the system. So if client has 1 registration, that you have to create in the system. If client has 3 registration to run their business, the 3 registration or 4 or 10 registration you have to create in the system. The company registration information we have to create in the system as a legal entity. That is the meaning of legal entity. Legal entity means legal identification for company. How company will get the legal identification? With a registration. Through that registration only they do the reporting. Okay. So that's all about legal entity. Any question here to understand the meaning of legal entity, please? It's very simple. Registration, how many registration client has, those many legal entities we have to create in the system. That's all.
You mean commercial registration?
Sorry?
Commercial registration, legal entity?
Yeah, legal registration, yes.
It means an ID as in the government. You got an ID,
government.
right?
If you're running the company, there should be company registration as per Companies Act or any act as per that country, right? That's what I'm referring.
So Lakshman, in that case, so let's say in our chart of account we have multiple segments, and one of the segment was company. So is it like that legal entity will represent that company, or it's completely from the legal perspective?
No, yeah, that's a really good question. See, you have one company, okay, you can go with the registration. You may have 10 branches, right? For 10 branches, you will be creating 10 balance and segment values.
Okay.
That's the meaning of it. See, client is doing one business only. Client is doing only one business in one country.
Okay.
They'll go with one registration.
Okay.
The client may do that business in the multiple locations.
Okay.
The multiple location, what they do, that will be creating as a separate business units in the system. For each business unit, you have to maintain separate balance and segment value. That is the reason each branch you will create as a company here. That's how it's
Okay,
done.
so we can say like one is like an umbrella kind of entity, and then under that you have multiple line of business if you want to track like with that balancing segment, like at that kind of reporting you want to manage, right?
Yes. How you need a transaction recording and report tracking and all, based on that we'll finalize the balance and segment values.
But then the legal requirement would be to have reporting at the legal entity level, because that's where we have registered with.
So these all business units are all balance and segment values will point to the same legal entity.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
That's how it. Yeah, thanks. Say for example, you have company 1000, 2000 and 3000. Now say for example, just for simple example I am taking, you have two registrations. Legal entity 1, sorry, legal entity 2. Say to run first two companies, this registration, to run this company called 3000, there may be some separate registration. In that case, in the system you have to specify the same. So you'll be creating the two registration company has, so you'll create two legal entities. So you are running this company called as 1000 with which registration? You have to specify. That means this company you have to associate with that legal entity. So when you are recording the transaction with the company 1000, system can easily identify reporting should be done through which registration. The same way, when you are recording this, you also have to associate with this belongs to which registration. By following which registration you are running that company, or you are running the business in so and so branch, you have to represent. So that's how system will easily understand it will. That's how it will be tracking the company 3000, or the 3000 company you are running with which registration. This registration you have to associate. That means you have to create legal entities based on how many registrations you have. So what are the companies you are running, or what are the branches you are running, or how many business units you have in your company, all you have to associate those belongs to which registration. That's how we have to do in the system. Okay, so first we have to create the legal entities. That is a point I given here. We have to create the legal entity. When you create the legal entity means the registration. When you talk about registration, when you go for registration, you have to give your office address. With a specific address you have to go with registration. That address only you have to create as a legal address. Okay, legal address is nothing but physical location. So with which location you got the registration done. So that address we have to create. With the help of that, by using that address, we'll create the legal entity. How many registrations company has, those many legal entities we have to create. After that, what we have to do is, so that we have a primary ledger, right? That legal entity, okay, what are the legal entity you are creating? That legal entity you have to associate with your primary ledger. So where you have companies in your primary ledger, and primary ledger chart of accounts under account segment only you have your companies. That is the reason the legal entity you have to assign to your primary ledger. Let me represent in the different way. Let's take simple example here. We have only one registration. Okay. Say only one registration company has, so we have to create one legal entity that we have to assign to primary ledger. So within the primary ledger we have companies, right? Under account segment, company segment, we have companies. Say we have 3 companies. So now these 3 companies we are running by following which registration? This registration. Then we have to assign those 3 companies to, sorry, the 3 companies to the same legal entity. Okay, the 3 we have to assign to same company. 1000 you are running by following this registration, same registration, and say company 3 also you are running with the by following the same registration. If different legal entity, you have to assign different legal entity only. So why we are assigning the legal entity to primary ledger? Our requirement is we have to specify which company we are running under which registration. If you want to assign these companies to legal entity, directly you cannot assign companies to legal entity. If you can assign legal entity to primary ledger, within the primary ledger only we have all these companies within the chart of accounts. Within the primary ledger we take in the chart of account. Within the chart of account we have companies. Those companies will be able to assign to this legal entity. Now what we have to do is, the first step is we have to create the legal entity. Okay, first step is we have to create the legal entity. The second step is we have to assign this legal entity to the primary ledger. The third step is we have to assign the companies to this legal entity. Okay, this is what we are going to do. We have to do, this is how we do. Of course this is done by finance guys, but since we are trying to understand, this is what we have to understand. Okay, how many legal entities? If they have a 4 legal entities, create 4 legal entities, assign 4 legal entities to 4 primary ledgers. Which companies are running under which legal entity, assign accordingly. That's it. That's a simple task. And one more point here. Which segment is balancing segment? We created a chart of account. Which segment is balancing?
Company segment.
Lakshman, question. Lakshman, legal entity can have multiple, primary ledger can have multiple legal entities?
Yes, that's what I was telling. If you have 4 you can create and assign 4 to the same. Possible, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So company is balancing segment. So company segment is balancing. Within the company, what are the company values we have? Those values we can call as balancing segment. Company segment is balancing. Within that values, whatever we have, we call as balancing segment values. Okay. If company segment name is balancing segment, within that, what are the companies, the values we have, those we call as balancing segment values. Okay, balancing segment values nothing but company values. Reason, company we are making as a balancing segment. The values we call as balancing segment values. Company values are company, if you have values, company values. Department, if you have values, department values. Account, if you have values, account values. When you call company as a balancing segment, that values are balancing segment values. BSV values we call. Okay, now the point is, first we have to create the legal entity. That legal entity you have to assign to primary ledger. And what are the balance and segment values we have? Nothing but company values. Those we have to assign to respective legal entity. So this is the point we have to understand. So that whenever you create the transaction with any one of the balance and segment value, system will understand reporting should be done for which legal entity. Even in the transaction level also you can see that. That's how it works. Any questions here to understand this point, please?
Lakshman.
You can go with the question directly, please. Don't
So
mind.
like
That's what I was telling yesterday
directly.
also.
Okay. So okay. So the question is like this case I perfectly understood, but if there is a case that one legal entity is assigned to more than one business unit or operating unit, then in that balancing segment value, still it will remain a legal entity, or like then how we can map it, because trial balance will be generated at all reporting will be at operating unit level.
No, first my question is, do you think
got
we
my
can?
point?
No. I got your question. Still, your voice is breaking. Same issue, but no issues. Do you think one legal entity can be assigned to more than one primary ledger?
No. That is not a possible.
That's it. No, your question is not valid. Fine. Fine. Any questions here, please? Okay, one legal entity you can assign to only one primary ledger. That's all. Okay, so that's all. We'll go and see this. Okay, before we go and create the legal entity, by with which address we have a registration, that address we have to create in the system. Okay, so we're done with these two tasks. First, we'll go and create the legal address. Legal address is nothing but registration address. With which registration, with which address we have our company registration, that address we have to create. Fine. Go to the instance, search for legal address. Okay, so we have a task called as manage legal addresses. The task is available from finance and procurement. All the time, most of the time, every task will see like this. Always, let's go with the procurement path based task. Just click on manage legal addresses. Click on go to task icon. So here we can create the legal address, with which address, okay, we have a registration that you have to create. Just click on create. You can give the name. Yes, we are creating everything with US based configuration, so you can give the address. I'll just give the name as here Petri address. Any test you can write, just we are testing, any test will be okay. So select postal code, so system will default city, state and county. Search for any one of the postal code and select it. So how we are getting all this information? From manage geographies. The manage geographies for US already Nokia data was submitted. That is the reason we are able to see all the data. Otherwise,
import Nokia data.
Yeah, same. Okay. So all the data we are getting from there and we are selecting. If you don't submit it, this all fields will be like this, dynamic fields. You have to enter the data. Okay, say okay. So we create a location, that's all. Say save and close. Now we have to create the legal entity. Legal address we created. Now we have to create the legal entity. So search for legal entity. Search for task called as legal entity. Here we have a task called as manage legal entity. Let's proceed with the procurement based task. Click on manage legal entity and here click on go to task icon. we are going to create legal entity, right? We are going to create. So here what we have to do is, from this drop down, select as a create new. You are not going, if you want to find existing, you have to go with this search and add. We are not going to find existing legal entity, we didn't create. So what we are doing is, just this is a task, manage legal entity. Just click on go to task icon and select option as a create new. Yes, we are going to create new legal entity. Then click on apply and go to task. Just click on create and apply. Sorry, say create, click on apply task. So we will be landing in this page. Once you click on this, we will be landing on this page. Here you could see many legal entities which are already created in this environment, since this is a vision instance. So when we work for client, whatever we create, those only you can see. Now to create the new legal entity, click on create icon. So just click on create. We are creating legal entity for which country? United States. You can provide the name ERP3 USA legal entity. Legal entity identifier, identification number. There will be some number. The registration number we enter basically. Here you can enter any test, any number, it will accept. Okay. And you have to select the location. Legal address we created just now, right? Before this step, we created legal address. The same we have to select here. Select legal address. What name we given? ERP3 address, right? So select it. And here you can just provide this depending on the country. If it is India, just PAN number, US, this TIN number, okay, the taxation number, okay, legal reporting unit registration number, the same registration number you can enter here. And here you have two check boxes. These are very much mandatory. If you don't enable this, you cannot use this legal entity in the process. It's very simple. So when you have a registration, then you can run the company. When you are running the company, you can run, you'll have employees. For the employees, you have to run the payrolls. So with this legal entity is, with this registration, if you are going to run the payrolls, this legal entity HCM people will be using in the payroll configuration and payroll process to run the payrolls for the employees. So to keep available this legal entity for the payroll application process, you have to enable. Even if you are not implementing HCM also, it is a mandatory, you have to enable this as a payroll statutory unit. You see here, place the cursor on that question mark icon. It gives the information what purpose. Okay, the legal entity registered to report payroll tax and social insurance. That means through this registration only, you will process the payrolls, the payroll related tax and all social insurance depending on the country where you use this registration information. That has to be enabled. And we'll maintain the employees. We'll maintain the employees. When you create the employee, okay, when you create the employee, for every employee you have to specify the employees belongs to which legal entity. That's how system will understand that employee belongs to which payroll process. Okay, so for that reason we have to specify this payroll statutory unit. And again here we have a legal employer. Yes, this is a real entity. Okay, our company, the client company, normally the client is identified with the registration only. That's what you have to specify as a legal employer. The legal employer is nothing but legal entity. So you just place the cursor here to manage the employees. Legal entity that employs people. Okay, that means the company is authorized to have employees since that is registered. So these two check boxes you have to enable as a mandatory. Otherwise, this legal entity you cannot use in any process. Even if you are not going to implement HCM also, still you have to enable it. Otherwise, the legal entity falls under dummy definition. Nowhere you can use it. Just try to understand how to create legal entity. Beyond that, we don't require any other points to understand. Just this is how we have to create legal entity. Okay. So we given the name, country, it's a system taking default based on the profile option, like EBS default country. Here also we have profile option. Okay, the profile option is set to United States. That is the reason wherever we go, if field is available as a country, it is defaulting United States. We given the name, registration number, and registration address, and as a mandatory, you have to enable this registration TIN number and all these details you have to provide. When we are working for client, when we are creating the legal entity, the legal document, the soft copy or hard copy, client will be sharing. By seeing that information, we create it. Otherwise, the registration number and all these details we cannot enter. By seeing that physical or document or soft copy which they'll be sharing related to the registration, we create the legal entity, or else they'll be providing the spreadsheet all the details. That's how we create the legal entity. Okay, so this is how we have to create, say, save and close. This is all about legal entity creation. If your client has 10 registrations, create 10 legal entities by following the same process. Maybe another legal entity could be ERP tree, India legal entity, ERP tree, UAE legal entity. That's how you can create the n number of legal entities. Accordingly, you can select that registration address and that registration numbers as per the definition the fields are available. Done. Okay, so we created legal address and we created legal entity also. Okay, we created legal entity. Now what we have to do? We have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger. Why we have to assign? If I don't assign, what we cannot do?
We don't know the chart of account if without the sign.
Sorry?
Without assigning, we don't know which chart of account. Yani legal entity it cannot operate.
No. Just now we discussed that point also. If you don't assign legal entity to primary ledger, you cannot assign balance and segment values to legal entity. When you record the transaction with any of the balance segment value, system cannot understand these transactions need to be reported to government through which registration. If you want to assign this balance and segment values to legal entity, you should assign legal entity to primary ledger. That is a condition.
Yes, correct.
First, this we have to connect, then that can be connected with this. Within this primary ledger, what are the balance segment values we have? Those can be associated with the legal entity. That is the reason we have to assign, otherwise not at all required. Fine. The company values we have to map with the legal entity. Which company, which registration. That is the reason first we have to assign legal entity to primary ledger. We'll go and see that. Okay. So task name is assign legal entity to primary ledger. So here search for a task called as assign legal entity. Legal entities. So you can click on any one of the tasks. Let's proceed with the procurement. Assign legal entities. Assign legal entities means to what? Assign legal entities to primary ledger only. They are not giving that complete definition within the task name. The meaning is assign legal entity to primary ledger. Here we have task. Assign legal entities. You have to assign the legal entity to what? Primary ledger. So already primary ledger is selected in the scope. When it got selected, for specified ledger options, whenever we selected, wherever primary ledger is required for all the tasks, it got selected. Again, you need to select. It's very simple now. Just click on go to task icon. Already the legal entity you want to assign to which primary ledger, that primary ledger should be here in the scope. Remember this point. If you have multiple ledgers, if you want to assign one legal entity to some different primary ledger, change primary ledger, then you can click on go to task, you can assign. That's how you have to do it. Fine. So now click on go to task icon. You want to assign to this primary ledger only. Just click on go to task icon. So to this primary ledger only we are going to assign our legal entity. Here is the add icon, click on add. Which legal entity you want to assign? ERP tree. Search, select, and say apply. In the background you can see it got selected, then say done. We assigned this legal entity to this primary ledger. Done, over. Nothing else we have to understand here. Just we have to assign. Okay, we assigned legal entity to primary ledger. In the same way, if you have multiple legal entities, same process. Search for the other legal entities and assign. Now within this primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have? Those we have to assign to legal entity. We'll see that. So this task we completed. We assigned legal entity to primary ledger. Now we have to assign balance and segment values. Balance segment values nothing but company values. Those company values we have to assign to legal entity. The company values we have to assign to legal entity so that every transaction can be identified. It's running under which registration. It has to be reported by following which registration. That's how everything can be tracked in the system if you do this assignment. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity. See here, if you notice, you can see the task. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity. This is the task. Click on go to task icon. Okay. Assign balance and segment values to legal entities. Please don't try with this task. Okay, this is different. For internal purpose, any balance and segment values you want to use for reporting, internal reporting and all, which balance and segment values you don't want to use for the transaction creation, those you have to assign to ledger. We are not talking about it. By mistake, you may do it. That is the reason I am telling, don't try with this task at all. This is a task which you have to use. Okay. Assign balance and segment values to legal entities. Click on go to task icon. So we want to assign those three balance and segment values to this legal entity. Okay, where we have those companies in this value set. Click on add. Select 1000. It will display the description here. So we have to assign two more to the same legal entity, right? So click on save and do assign another. Next one, 2000. Click on save and assign another. 3000. Now no more values we have. Directly you can say save and close. Now you can see the three companies are associated with this legal entity. With any company, with ERP consulting, training or BPO services, any company you record the transaction, system will track this legal entity also within the transactions. That's how we can understand this company transaction need to be reported to tax authority with which registration details. That's how you can understand. Okay, that's how system will understand first. Fine. Then say save and close. Okay, done. So we completed this task. Now what we have to do is we have to complete this entire primary ledger definition. Now we done with everything, but we have to update the status as completed for our primary ledger. Otherwise you cannot use it. In the background, what happens we'll discuss. Okay, just nothing else we are going to discuss related to finance apart from what we are discussing today. That is the reason just I want to give you this understanding, this point also. Say this is Oracle database. This is Sbase database. Now, what are the primary ledger we created that will get stored in the Oracle database only? Okay, this primary ledger will be stored in the Oracle database only. Oracle database. Now we have to complete the primary ledger. The moment you complete, okay, the moment you complete the primary ledger, what system will do is this primary ledger definition, it will move from Oracle database to Sbase database also. Why this primary ledger data will be moved to Sbase? To prepare the FRS reports, financial statement reports, financial statements, financial reporting studio. Any reports you want to define. In Fusion, we have Hyperion financial reporting. This is they're taken from the Hyperion. Hyperion financial reporting, they're given as a part of GL. This is related to finance, but since we are going to complete the primary ledger, I'm just trying to share this information. So the moment you complete the primary ledger, the moment you complete, okay, the moment you complete the primary ledger, what are the primary ledger we have in the Oracle database that would be copied to Sbase also. So whenever we have a transactions within any application, subledger application, automatically data will come to GL, right? From GL, automatically it will go and sit in the Sbase database. So all the journal related balances will be available in the Sbase. Based on that, they'll be able to prepare the Hyperion financial reports. The reason is if they want to prepare the reports by using the Hyperion, the data can be derived from the Sbase only. In Oracle database, we'll have a tables. Sbase data would be available in the cubes, multi-dimensional cubes. So that is the reason the Oracle database, what are the journals information we have in the GL, that has to be submitted to Sbase. But again, the data belongs to which ledger? So and so ledger. That ledger information definition also should be available in the Sbase. That is the reason whenever you complete the primary ledger, the same primary ledger definition from Oracle database, it will be copied to Sbase. So the definition would be available and it will be holding the information in the Sbase in the cubes with the reference of that information. With that details only, the finance people will prepare the Hyperion financial reporting as a part of GL. Okay, this is a simple point we have to understand. If we don't get it, ignore it, not required for us. So just only the point we have to understand. If you want to use the primary ledger, you have to complete. The moment you complete, it will complete as well as it will perform this activity also. That's what I'm trying to give you this. Okay.
Also, we are using financial reporting with Hyperion, where we don't see. In Atol also, we are reporting. We have Hyperion financial reporting, right?
So not only in EBS, Hyperion financial reporting you can use in any application. You have to take the separate license. You have to integrate and you have to use. Whatever here I am talking, that is inbuilt functionality. You don't need to take separate license, nothing. They given Hyperion financial reporting as inbuilt functionality. In case of EBS, your client has to take the separate license. That is the point. Okay.
Lakshman, so is this auto synchronize with respect to any updates that we do in the ledger?
Yeah, what happens is, yes, anything. Say for example, in the ledger you are creating one value. That can be account value or department. Automatically it will sync with the Sbase. Okay, you created 10 journals in GL. Automatically that information will be updated in the Sbase. You created receipt. You create a receipt in the inventory that you transfer to GL. Once you transfer to GL, from GL to Sbase, it will be updated. So any subledger journals information, once available in the GL, that goes to Sbase. That's it. Auto synchronization, as you mentioned, automatically it will get updated. We no need to do anything.
And the transfer to Sbase, it is done transfer to Essbase or conversion to Essbase database, it will be instant in the same time, or it is a job scheduled?
Same time. If you post the journal in the GL, the posting process itself, it will update the balances in the Oracle database as that is posted, and the amounts will get updated against the accounts, as well as same information it will sync with Essbase. No separate process and all, auto synchronization they implemented. You no need to do additionally.
Is this only
Fine.
for reporting purpose, or is there any other purpose?
Only for Hyperion financial reporting, and this can be used for budgeting purpose also.
Okay, thanks.
Lakshman, where is this option available? This Hyperion financial reporting in the module, like, is it a separate offering we have to buy, or it's part of the financial offering? This Hyperion financial reporting.
We are working on. It's part of finance only. Yeah, I think since you are talking about this, you are aware of GL FSE?
Not exactly.
EBS.
I'm supply chain. I'm supply chain, so I don't have much knowledge about
it. In EBS GL, we have FSE, financial statement generator. That is a small function to prepare the simple basic reports. But this is a very powerful tool where you can handle very complex reports and with just on the fly report definition.
Yeah, Hyperion I know, because in EBS 4 it's completely there are Hyperion concepts.
I'm coming to that point. So in EBS, what are the FSE we have to prepare the simple reports that they removed and they replaced with a Hyperion financial reporting. Simply we call this as a FRS, Financial Reporting Studio. Nothing but Hyperion Financial Reporting Studio. They replaced. No need to take separate license or subscription for this Hyperion. If any client is subscribing financials, automatically it will come as an inbuilt solution for GL. That's it. Okay.
So where this option is available, like on the home.
We can see in the finance if you are learning.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I just want to see the icon. That's okay.
Because see, normally what? Okay, just let's add some point here. So basically for this, what we'll do is we have to download the plugin what Oracle will provide, and we have to install, and this is the one which will be connecting. You have to provide your login credentials, then we'll be connecting to that space where you can prepare the reports.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you.
Oracle Hyperion Financial Reporting Studio.
Okay.
If it is a finance classes, definitely those need to be discussed detail level. Since just we are touching base on this very high level point, so not required for us. Nowhere we use in SAM side. Okay, done. Fine. Any questions on this point to understand, please? Just for information, nowhere it is useful for us. Just since we are working on primal ledger, very relevant point we are trying to understand. Otherwise, ignorable. Done. Now only the pending task is completing our primal. Sorry?
The complete ledger is done. Okay, complete ledger is not done. No, nothing.
Sauro, your voice is still same. This is my big request, please. If you have a connectivity, fine, okay, or else I cannot take your questions. I can understand your interest. At the same time, like I have to see how it is going. The connectivity is not proper, like I don't hear all the time, so voice is breaking. Not only for me, for everyone it happens. Set your connection proper, you can ask n number of questions, no issues. So now we have to complete the primal ledger. Okay, how to complete the primal ledger? Here we have one task: review and submit accounting configuration. Okay, review and submit accounting configuration. With this task, we can complete our primal ledger. Once you submit this, automatically system will be triggering the jobs. What it will do, it will update the status of primal ledger to completed, and it will transfer all our primal ledger data The values, value sets, chart of accounts, all the information will transfer to Essbase automatically. So before we go and before we go and test it, okay, before we go and test it, we'll check what is the status of our primary ledger. This is our primary ledger task, right? Click on go to task icon. Sorry. So what is our primary ledger name? Here, P3. Search. What is the status of our primary ledger? In process. In process. If you see other primary ledgers, confirmed means completed. If primary ledger status is confirmed, then only you can use, otherwise no use of that primary ledger, nowhere you can use to record the transaction. It won't be available to use in the further configuration also. So our primary ledger status is in process. Reason is we not yet completed, we not yet submitted to complete and to update the same information in the Essbase, which is a mandatory, right? So say done. The task name is review and submit accounting configuration. Remember all the tasks. Hope you are taking all these points. When you're practicing, it would be easy if you take a note. Okay, review and submit accounting configuration. Against this task, we want to review and submit accounting configuration for which ledger? This ledger only. If you select ledger at the time of specify ledger options, it will be selected wherever it is required automatically. You don't need to select every time. If you want to perform any task for other ledger, you have to change, otherwise not required. Okay, the task name is review and submit accounting configuration. Just here, click on go to task icon. Just now we verified our ledger status is in process, right? Just click on go to task icon, and here click on submit. Click on submit. Okay, the create accounting configuration process has been submitted. Say okay. Now go to ESS job page. There you can see our system is run. The system will be running the jobs. You can just see that. How to go to ESS job page? Under tools we have schedule processes. So here system is running. See, complete accounting configuration. Complete accounting config. Load chart of account values. It is loading to where? Essbase. Create as balancing cubes. We discussed in Essbase. Everything is maintained with the help of cubes, not tables and columns. Just cubes only, multi-dimensional cubes. For our segments and currency, ledger name, for everything it is creating the separate cubes. Cubes are similar to columns which are in the table, but tables will be in the column. Cubes won't be there in the specific structure. This is very unstructured. Here when I talk about Oracle database, there is relational database where the tables and all columns and everything, just all this relations we can maintain. But in Essbase, everything is independent values, independent specifications through cubes. Okay, system is running this. So it has to be completed as a succeeded. There won't be any issue. Anytime it goes smooth because Oracle is automated. We are not submitting, we are not creating something else to run this process. So once your primary ledger is ready, if you submit a task called as review and submit accounting configuration, the rest of process automatically system will perform, and you can just make sure that the status would be succeeded for these 3 jobs. We'll wait for some time. You could see the same status. Values already loaded into Essbase. Now it is creating the cubes in the space. So meantime, any questions, please?
So Lakshman, we will only run this job once, right? After that, no need to run this job. only the first time when we submit or complete the primary ledger or ledger completion.
That's it. That's it. When you create new primary ledger, we have to complete only, that is the case we run this. That's all. Okay. Only this is one time task when you create the new primary ledger. That's all. So status is
Data
sorry.
data transfer from Oracle database to Hyperion database only for
Hyperion database, Space data. Yeah.
sorry, yeah, Sbase. Only for this financials generated information only, or transactional information as well?
Data. Only GL journals data.
Not for any inventory transaction data then.
Inventory transaction data will come to GL in the form of journals, right?
Oh, yes.
That data, any application data, but which is available in the GL in the form of journal. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So completed. You can see all the time the same status. Definitely, there won't be an issue when you are dealing with this. So, so this is all about completing the primary ledger. Done. So we don't need to do anything from the finance side. Hope you are comfortable with this. So just you can practice once or twice. So you'll be comfortable with this primary ledger, legal entities, and all these assignments. So before we proceed with our core financials, core SCM configuration, what we'll do is we'll just create one journal. We'll create one journal in the GL, then we'll proceed with our task. For that, we have to assign the roles and all those points we'll discuss and do in the tomorrow session. In tomorrow session itself, we can start with our SCM related configuration also. What are the journal creation and all, hardly it may takes for us 15 to 20 minutes time. Once we complete that, directly we can jump into the basic purchasing configuration, then inventory configuration. First we'll work on P2P cycle, then we'll move on to order management, and we'll complete the O2C cycle. And after completing the purchasing and basic inventory, we'll work on full complete functionality of purchasing, then inventory, and then complete P2P cycle. Then we'll move to OM, then O2C cycle. We'll say everything. After completing everything that BOM and WIP, the naming conventions and all, they changed, we'll discuss those, and we'll work on that BOM and WIP related applications basic flow. Okay, this is how we'll just move on.
We will have session only day after tomorrow, right? On Monday morning India time.
Monday, yes, you're right. Okay, we have sessions from Monday to Friday only. The next session will be on Monday.
And we will be talking about the cost management also, right? The tab thing which is new there.
Cost management, cost accounting we have. Yes, there will be doing the configuration. Cost accounting we call. So we have a cost accounting and receipt accounting and a PO tab. So we know in EBS the setups, accounts and all will be providing here and there when you do the setups. When you set up inventory, within the inventory information will provide many accounts, material accounts, accrual accounts and all. And when you set the purchasing option will provide the accounts. When you set up receiving options will provide the accounts, right? So all the places will provide, but in the Fusion they change the logic. So when you create the requisition and purchase order, what are the accounts you are required, you have to separately have to configure with the concept called as PO tab. PO, purchasing tab, transaction accounting builder, or definition also you can call. Receipt related accounting, when you create the receipt, what are the accounting entries we have to generate, those we have to configure separately with the help of similar to SLA. This is similar to SLA configuration. Within the SLA only will do, but this is separate configuration. Separate configuration we have to do. It's not like we'll go and provide accounts, then system won't derive. You have to define these rules and all. Okay, all the rules you have to create for receipt accounting. Receipt related accounting entries, generation purpose you have to define. The same way for cost calculations, the relevant accounting entries generation purpose, we have to do the cost account. We'll be working on that. We'll be working on all this.
But that will be like, once we are complete, we are done with all the supply chain flows, right?
Yeah. Once done with the processes, to see the accounting generation, we'll work on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So without cost accounting, receipt accounting, you can test everything, you can do everything. Only accounting entries you cannot transfer to, you cannot generate, you cannot transfer to accounting entries to GL. Otherwise, there is no dependency on the cost accounting and receipt accounting. But when you talk about PO tab, without completing the PO tab, you cannot create the requisitions and purchase orders. Will stuck over there. That is the reason PO tab initially will be building and will be working on it, and inventory, order management, and all will be working, and it won't stop anything. For accounting generation, how to configure those, how to interface that entries to GL and all, we'll see. We'll be covering. Finally, we'll be covering everything. What we should cover, what we should understand.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions on today's session or from previous classes, please?